Hey again, everyone, it's Tyler Cavalli and Jacob Roth along with you here for KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska, the Red Meat Road Trip, all powered once again by our great sponsors, Cross Diamond Cattle, Cross Diamond Meats in Bertrand, the Nebraska Beef Council, the Dawson County Cattlemen, and the Nebraska Cattlemen. Today, we're moving into southeast Nebraska, where we're here in Unadilla. We're at MK Meats, which is one of the stops of the Nebraska Beef Passport program. This is a really cool, what looks like a newer shop that we're going to learn more about here in Unadilla, but really nice facility.
No, just looking at the outside, and again, it feels like this might have been the ones, obviously, Unadilla probably had a locker at one point. It feels like a new building, an investment put into the locker for this area, and we've seen that in a couple different places. Some places are still in the old spot, some are in the new, and this one looks like it's in the new one. Excited, great spot in terms of location.
Yeah.
Just kind of conveniently off the highway. You got to go into town a little bit, but it's not super far into town, and just a nice spot and convenient for all sorts of folks out in eastern Nebraska.
Yeah, let's learn more about MK Meats. Again, sounds like a very popular spot here in the southeast region of the state. So let's learn more here at MK Meats. Hey again, everyone, it's Tyler Cavalli, Jacob Roth along with you as we are moving our way into the southern eastern portion of Nebraska, part of KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska, the Red Meat Road Trip. And today, on the stop of the Nebraska Beef Passport program, we're at MK Meats in Unadilla. We're talking with Tom Ruby, who is the owner here. And Tom, you have a really great facility that is now, entering your 30th years. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really good to me. We bought the shop, my wife and I bought it in 1995. It's an old building. We recently built this new building. We've been here 6 years. So it's been really good. A lot easier to keep clean. We've increased our capacity. We've increased our beef production. And business keeps coming and coming. I mean, it's been real good to us.
Talk about, obviously, 30 years now, but the changes of this industry in general from when you started 30 years ago to now.
Well, 30 years ago, it was a lot different than it is today. 30 years ago, every farmer had a cow, everybody had their own pig. It was a more isolated, individual families that just processed meat for their own use. Now it's grown to where I've got producers that will feed out maybe 20 or 30 head of cattle. They have their own customer base. They're marketing the farm to table philosophy, and people are really accepting that. So now instead of doing one cow for Mr. Jones, we maybe do 20, and he'll do that every year. And I've got a lot of customer base like that. A lot more people are conscious of where they're getting their meat from. So I've got a lot of consumers from Omaha, Lincoln, that they like the idea of buying directly from the farm, having it processed. They know where it's coming from, and they feel comfortable feeding that to their families. So it's really changed over the years.
And along with that, obviously, we're into an area of Nebraska where, kind of as you mentioned, not a ton of cattle, right? Not like when we're back western Nebraska, central Nebraska, up in the Sandhills, where they're everywhere. How has that changed in terms of, how do you navigate that, I guess, in terms of what you guys do here?
Well, as far as navigating it, it all kind of streams to me. So the people that have cattle, they want a place to market them. So I really don't have a lot to do with that. I promote my product. I try and put out a good product. My customer service, I think, is huge. I get a lot of compliments on the way we do things. So as far as the number of cattle, yeah, there's not as many here, but the ones that are feeding them out, they're trying to market them locally. They get a lot more money for them as opposed to taking a handful of cattle and taking them to the packing house. They're getting a little more bang for their buck, and they're getting a name for themselves too.
And when you're talking about the changes that have kind of gone over the 30 years, feels like, as we've talked to a lot of producers throughout this Red Meat Road Trip on the Nebraska Beef Passport, since COVID, it seems like things got kind of slammed into overdrive where everyone was looking to fill a freezer. What was that time period kind of like? Obviously, you said this building's 6 years old. Would have been a pretty fresh new building here. What was that time kind of like in terms of getting connected with folks that had never came in to buy a half or buy a quarter? And how did you kind of navigate that?
Well, yeah, my building was like perfect timing for COVID, to be honest with you. At the time I built it, I thought, the material costs are high, but interest rate was low, and now the building cost is a lot more than it was. I just kind of fell into it. We just got in here, and then COVID hit. And then I had people crawling out of the woodwork, calling me from Omaha. I had a gal call me from Omaha. She said, "How many ribeyes do you have?" I said, "I got about 40. She says, "I'll take them all." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to sell them all to you. Other people need some too." But yeah, there was a lot of people from all over buying meat. And I couldn't keep up. I couldn't get any hamburger meat. I started grinding sirloins, briskets, whatever I could get my hands on to sell. And a lot of these people, once they came here, they liked the idea of the meat from a meat locker, and a lot of people are now repeat customers because of that. But yeah, it was a crazy time. It was a little blown out of proportion. I mean, everybody thought they're going to starve to death. There's still meat out there. It's just that the COVID shut down the packing houses. So it was a boom time for a while. We couldn't keep up. My help was working overtime. We're trying to process as much as we could. Besides what I had on my schedule, I had 100 head of beef on the back burner that I had to try and work in for people. I had about 150 hogs that weren't on the schedule that I need to squeeze in. So that went on for a couple of years. Then, COVID started to die down. Then I ran into the problem where I had producers that anybody that had cattle, they were going to feed out 5 or 6 or 10, and they were going to sell them all because the world wanted meat. Well, then they started losing some of that, so I was getting some cancellations a little bit. I said, "Hey, Tom, I know I got 5 head scheduled, but I've only got 2 of them sold." So that kind of took a hit in that sense. A couple of years later, now it's a more normal way of life for me, actually. What I schedule, they keep. We stay busy. We're booked out till the first of the year.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just kind of a roller coaster ride with that COVID for a while.
And that's kind of a unique perspective that we haven't really heard, just because of how high those beef prices have gotten. Folks tend to be a little bit more tentative, not able to just spend in a giant bulk amount of money to buy a quarter or buy a half, just with spending habits and things. Talk about the kind of why you feel like here, is it the location, is it the service you provide that really has producers and customers alike coming back and having you booked out for almost the rest of the year?
Well, yeah, beef prices are a concern. They're at all-time high. Cattle are at an all-time low numbers. So I worry about that. But yet the customers keep coming. They want the idea. They still have to eat. They compare it to buying meat in a grocery store, and they like the quality that comes out of a meat locker more than the store. Even if it costs a little bit more, they like the idea of that. And I feel like I've built a name for myself. I had a customer came in the other day. He used to process out at western Nebraska, and he couldn't get his beef in there. He said, "Well, I heard you had a 5-star rating." So he came down here, and I talked to him for maybe 20 minutes, and he ordered a half a beef and a half a hog before he left. So I'd like to think my reputation, we try and do quality work, and we try and put out a good product. So I think all those things together kind of build my customer base and keep them coming back.
So is that something you're able to do, is if someone comes in, you can connect them with a producer or connect them with an animal to be able to kind of get them into that half or get them into that quarter?
Yes, I work with local producers. Say you came in, you wanted to buy a half a beef. I've got producers that I work with. He tries to keep cattle on feed for me on a regular basis and try and have some available every month. So basically the ones he has scheduled, we just have a list. We got a half available the end of October. If you want that one, it'll be, the middle of August, or the middle of November when it'll be done. Same way with our pork. Pork is the same way. I work with local producers. So I could tell everybody that comes in here and orders one exactly where it comes from. And they like that.
Again, we're talking to Tom Berube, who is the owner here of MK Meats, which is our latest stop here of KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska. Talk about what kind of an everyday process looks like for you guys. How many head are you kind of coming in approximately, and how long are you usually hanging the cattle here at MK Meats?
Well, ideally I'd like to do 20 head of beef a week plus about 15 hogs. We're never quite there. It's always a little bit short. But we slaughter, or harvest, I guess is the proper term. Cattle 2 days a week, Mondays and Thursdays, hogs on Tuesdays. And the cattle, we let them hang for 2 weeks approximately, before we process them. I can hold about 50 head of cattle in here if I need to. The hogs we usually cut within a week. So today they're working on hogs back there. We cut meat every day. So I've got a good crew where at the same time we've got work on the kill floor, we're doing processing. I've got a gal back there doing bacon. I've got a good team, and all the aspects of start to finish, I mean, it happens pretty quickly.
So talk about your storefront here. For those that are watching the video, you have a lot of different options. What will someone encounter when they come in here to MK Meats?
Well, we do have a lot of options. I've got over 100 different items, counting my cheese. All the beef that I sell, it's all USDA choice. It's all aged 3 weeks. So I get a lot of compliments. Ribeyes are my biggest seller. I make all my own homemade brats, cure my own bacon. Everything that you see in the storefront, we make right here, with the exception of the cheese, of course. So people come in, they like the variety. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people come in, they want a good steak. Other people want, breakfast sausage, or just a mixture. I've got some customers that come in, and I've got a couple from Omaha. They always stick out in my mind. This is the only place that they will buy meat. Wow. They found us, and they've been coming down here regularly, and they just like the variety and the freshness. So I think people have a good experience come in. We actually stocked pretty good today. It looks pretty full. We try and keep it that way. Sometimes we're a little short, but yeah, Saturday mornings it can be pretty crazy in here. Just people come in. It's like a weekend, like a destination shopping trip. I get people from Lincoln and different places that, we're going to go to MK Meats, and we love his spicy sausage, or we love his knip, or we love, everybody's like something different. Yeah.
That says a lot, obviously, for people to keep coming back, and obviously people even coming across the state from western Nebraska. I guess we should ask, how and why did you even get into this business 30 years ago?
Well, that's kind of a long story. I never thought I would own a meat locker. I grew up on a farm in central Nebraska. Tried to farm in the 80s. That did not work out. Moved to Lincoln, decided to go to college, went for a year and a half. Ended up getting a job at Hy-Vee as a meat wrapper. Then they offered me a full-time job cutting meat. I dropped out of school. I thought, well, I'll just cut meat. I like this. Cut meat for 10 years at Hy-Vee. Met my wife there. Moved to Eagle, and we saw an ad in the paper that said meat locker for sale in Unadilla. And we went and looked at it, and I thought, I could probably do that. I don't know. I know how to cut meat. So we ended up buying it. It was a struggle from the first. I mean, I wondered why I left a paycheck. I remember the month of May, the first year we were there, I slaughtered 4 head of cattle, and that was it.
Wow.
And I did a lot of painting and wandering around and thinking, what did I do? But year after year, it just kept getting a little better. I was a stranger in a little town. Nobody knew me. I tried to change that. And over time, people got to know me, and I tried to do the best I could, tried to be honest with people, be upfront with them. And then there's other little towns that had meat lockers started closing up. It was kind of a dying business at the time. So I got more business from them. Cook Locker closed, Talmadge Locker, Jack and Jill and Hickman had one. So over the years, I just started building a customer base, and then year after year, it just keeps getting better and better. So it wasn't really a decision to come, be a meat locker owner. It just worked out that way.
It's obviously flourished 30 years since here at MK Meats. You've been a part of the Nebraska Beef Passport program. This is your second year. Why is it important to be a part of the program?
Well, I think anytime you're promoting a Nebraska product, whether it be beef or pork, it's important to get that out there. The Beef Council, they do a really good job, and just getting people to come in, and we don't have a lot of people that come in for it, but there is some, and they always, they have to buy a beef product. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that maybe that's opening doors for more people as far as, just promoting the beef industry. And I don't know, I just think it's a good program.
And that seems to kind of be a common theme that we see is, well, I just thought it'd be a good thing promoting beef, and it gets some people in the door at times. But you said they've got to buy a beef product, and this is a part that me and Tyler rather enjoy. We always ask, if someone's coming in that's listening and they're like, I'm going to do this stop on the passport, what is something that is a beef product that you recommend here at MK Meats? You're like, we're putting our best foot forward with this beef product.
Probably the biggest compliment I get on any of my beef products are my ground beef.
Okay.
I mean, everybody compares it to grocery store. You know, we grind it all fresh. You know, I don't buy pre-ground stuff. We buy primal muscles, cut them up and grind them. So that's probably the most compliments I get. That and my ribeyes, my steaks. You know, they're all, you know, like I said, they're all aged, and I sell a ton of ribeyes.
And is all this beef, I kind of mentioned before, all from the southeast Nebraska region?
Since I'm a custom exempt plant, I don't have a USDA inspector on site, so all the beef that I sell has to come from a USDA inspected plant. So it's all regional animals. I can't tell you exactly where they come from though. If you're to buy a half or a quarter or whole beef, I can tell you that. But as far as what's in my retail case, it's got to be inspected, so I have to buy it from such a plant.
Well, as we wrap things up, I know that you mentioned you are booked out until the end of the year, but if somebody did want to get a hold of you to bring their animal in here, right, or to stop by and buy something here in your storefront, what are your hours and how do they get a hold of you?
We are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday mornings, 8 until noon. I've got a website, MK Meats. It's got our phone number on there, 402-828-4400 is my phone number. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. But we're also online, or not online, but we have a website.
All right, very good. Well, again, that is Tom Ruby, who is the owner here, 30 years of MK Meats here in Unadilla. Make sure you stop by and check things out. Again, this is KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska. All right, we're back here once again at MK Meats here in Unadilla, wrapping up another successful stop of the Nebraska Beef Passport Program and KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska. Wrapping things up with Tom Ruby, who has been the owner for 30 years in what is now this newer shop. We talked about how when we first got here, really nice looking facility, and well, what did we figure out? It was only 6 years old as they've expanded their shop.
No, it makes sense, and they were kind of describing what they used to have to do. Makes sense why they were looking for a new facility. Yeah. Just the ability, they said that like they increased how many head they could do, by almost double, just by moving to this new facility, streamlined everything, able to continue to provide the customer service that they're very proud of. And we saw that even just chatting there for a little bit after the interview. Just you can tell that folks come here and they're not just coming to get good quality meat. Yeah. They're coming for good conversation, and it's here in plenty. And it's just an awesome story. He was talking about how he got into the meat locker business. Almost no one seems like they go into it wanting to own a meat locker, but he came out of it with a successful 30-year business, a thing that most people can't say they've done. Right. Really, really cool story and a really, really neat stop, and really conveniently located. That's the thing that it looks like you're looking at the map and it looks like it's a little out of the way. You get here before you realize it. It's just a really, really awesome spot here in Unadilla. 20
minutes outside of Lincoln, right off Highway 2. It's just right off the highway, so really simple to get here. I thought it was interesting as we, again, continue this journey across the state. Obviously, we were in premier cattle country, right, not too long ago, as we were in the Nebraska Sandhills. There's cattle all over the place. But we're starting to make our way into an area of the state where you don't have as many rolling pastures. It's all farm ground, and obviously that's how you feed the cattle at the same time. But it's interesting to understand how these meat lockers, keep their business at this point with obviously maybe a little bit different clientele base.
Yeah, just going to be more reliant on those feedlot cattle, because you've got the feedlots in this area. You just don't have the wide open God's country to let them walk where they want to. So it's just a different setup. But again, as we heard, they stay busy enough. They're able to get stuff in. Obviously, a higher presence of hogs in this part of the state. It's just really interesting to see the differences. But again, it all boils down to one thing. It's Nebraska beef, kind of all centrally sourced, and you can't really ask for anything better. I thought he said a really cool thing. He's like, on the custom exempt side, if it's a half or a quarter or full, I can tell you exactly where that beef is coming from. And that's something that is just a cool thing to know, that if you don't know the producer, you've got someone that does know the producer that's got your interest in mind as well.
And obviously they get a lot of customers from Lincoln and Omaha, which are not too far away. And a lot of people, especially during COVID, decided to come here to get locally sourced Nebraska beef, and he has continued that client base ever since then, so that's great to hear.
No, been able to kind of keep that roll going, and it's a thing that a lot of folks have done. And the other thing that was nice to hear is while the beef prices are high, they're still busy,
Yeah.
which is not something that every locker we've been to has been able to kind of talk about, which is honestly really, really cool. But being in business for 30 years and having the reputation that they do have here at MK Meats would tend to help that.
Thanks to our great sponsors once again, the Nebraska Cattlemen, the Nebraska Beef Council, the Dawson County Cattlemen, Cross Diamond Cattle, and Cross Diamond Meats in Bertrand for powering our Red Meat Road Trip. So another great stop here, and make sure you stop by MK Meats in Unadilla here in southeast Nebraska. He's Jacob Rupp. I'm Tyler Cavalli here for KRVN Sizzling across Nebraska.